How does a high-performing woman scale to 8 figures without destroying her marriage, identity, or financial foundation?
Oh man, that's a big question.
It's a big question, right? At what point did you realize that the version of you who built a 7-figure business was going to need to evolve and change to the person who can build that 8, 9, and beyond figure business? Yeah.
Everything you do to be successful to get to 7 figures are the exact same things that will hold you back to 8 figures.
Wow. Welcome to another episode of the Creator Method Podcast. Today we have Julia Carlson with us, and I am going to jump right into your intro, Julia. So today's guest is someone who has spent nearly 3 decades building, scaling, and leading companies at a high level. She is the founder and CEO of Financial Freedom Wealth Management Group, a nationally recognized wealth advisory firm, and the author of not one but 2 books, one of which is Money Loves You, which I really want to do a deep dive on because I want to know how much money loves me. And her newest book, which I have right here, is Let's Get You Fired, which I want to do a deep dive into that too. Julia Carlson doesn't just talk about scaling businesses. She has actually done it. She helps entrepreneurs design companies that grow without them, which I can't wait to talk about that, to build 8-figure wealth with purpose and integrate generosity directly into their success through her $1 billion for good movement. What I appreciate about Julia is that she understands both sides of the equation, how to scale an empire and how to protect and grow the wealth that comes from it. Today, we are going to talk about leadership, letting go, personal brand scaling, money psychology, and what it really looks like to be a CEO at work and at home. Julia, welcome to the Creator Method Podcast.
What an intro. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. No, this is great. You and I did a one-on-one probably a couple of months ago. In December.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember being really intrigued by the work that you do. And hence, we reached out and invited you on the podcast because you bring in so many different elements of what I feel is super important, where it may not be kind of directly associated with content creation, but it sort of is. So the disciplines that you talk about in your books and the concept of scale, it's to me it's super relevant. So I have a core question that I want to start the conversation with.
Okay.
So how does a high-performing woman scale to 8 figures without destroying her marriage, identity, or financial foundation?
Oh man, that's a big question.
It's a big question, right? It's a big question because I'm dealing with it at home. Like my wife is like, we have to scale. How do I scale? And she's always trying to catch, but I'm missing time with the kids. I'm missing time with you. So what is the secret?
Yeah, well, I've been on both sides of that. And so I feel like I'm qualified to answer that question. My husband and I have almost been married 30 years.
Wow, congrats.
And I was 19 when we got married and not really understanding what I wanted to do with my life. And I got into investment in wealth management, and I was licensed before I could legally drink.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was a stockbroker before, at 20, it was wild. But then I'm like, who's going to trust me with millions? And so I was at the bank for a couple years, left that and started what is now Financial Freedom Wealth Management. And I just remember in the beginning, I was just such a rugged individualist. I was out to prove that I could be successful. Mm-hmm. And that came with hurricane force winds, as my husband and my team would say, that I was very driven. And, it was hard in the beginning. And I had 3 kids.
How old are your kids now?
23, 18, and 16.
Okay.
And so when they were all under 10.
Sorry, boys or girls?
2 girls and a boy.
Okay. Which of your daughters said in the post that I was talking with you about before the camera turned on, with your husband, where she wrote, "So blessed to have such good role models as my parents"?
Yeah, Jazzy.
Which one was that?
Jazzy.
How old is
She's
is she?
18.
She's the 18-year-old. Okay.
A freshman at college.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I was thinking I had it all together. I was like building this business. It was becoming successful. The kids were, I was raising the kids. My husband has his business. And, at that point, it very felt much like a trade-off. Like, I'm going to go do my work, and then I'm going to come home, and I'm going to give you the kids, and then he goes and does his work. And it was like very back and forth. And, when kids are small, it's just so hard. You're just in it. It's so hard. But when my oldest daughter was 9, I was entertaining clients. I was on a client appreciation cruise, and at the end of the night, I got off the boat, and I looked at my phone, and I realized I had missed all these missed calls, and learned my oldest daughter and parents were in a drunk driving accident. They were hit head on.
Is she okay?
She's okay. She's okay. But at that point, I didn't know that, and she was being life flighted. And she was in ICU for a week, where at that point in my career, I was juggling everything. I was trying to holding on to it all. And I had made myself so relevant that by her bedside in ICU, I made my assistant bring me my computer so I could work. And that was it was a turning point for me, because I really felt like I had to choose motherhood. Like I had to come home, and I wanted to be with her that summer to help her recover. And I thought my business would fail because of that. And I think I had about 4 employees at the time.
Right.
But an interesting thing happened. The more that I let go and trusted my team, they were very capable. And within a year and a half of that, my business had gone from about 800 in revenue to over 1.5 million in revenue.
And sorry, in what span of time did you have that growth?
18 months.
Wow, okay.
And I'm like, wow. And so I went on a journey. You can't connect the dots all at once, but I went on a journey to become a better business owner. And through that, constantly letting go, constantly allowing others to help. Like that was a big thing. Like I was giving. And I think a lot of women give, and don't feel safe to receive. But actually the lesson I learned was receiving is allowing someone else to give.
Meaning your employees.
My employees.
So I have a question about that. Because I agree with you. I agree that scale is not possible without delegation and training, which we talked about before we turned on the camera. And I think that every entrepreneur here, including yourself, will admit that sometimes when you delegate and you don't delegate to the right people or a group of people, that actually things go the other way.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of waste, and you start burning cash, and you have unhappy clients, and you start going the other way. So it's almost, and I'm kind of challenging you a little bit because there is kind of this one-sided aspect to if you just simply let go. And I'm sure you cover all of this in your book.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear your view, and I'm asking you kind of, selfishly, because we continue to build businesses, and we're involved in a lot of operational kind of matters. How do you make sure that the people that you're delegating to are actually going to get the results that you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of the coaching that I do with entrepreneurs, they're about usually, 7 figures when I come in, and maybe 4 or 5 employees, and they are at the center of it all. Right. And so what I have found is as entrepreneurs start hiring and trying to train their team, they are task givers. Hey, do this, send this email, plan this appointment. And it's just a whole bunch of tasks versus owning outcomes. And so if you have the right person who is, let's say, operations, because rarely are entrepreneurs great at operations.
Hallelujah.
That's the first thing that I try.
I'm glad to hear that from you, because that's something that I've known through years and years of practice. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you find someone? Yeah, you have to find the right fit, but most likely the right fit is going to be someone opposite you, and that is actually hard. That's a hard hire, because we like people that are like us. And so if you're a young entrepreneur, you're going to naturally attract people like you. And so if you find someone that's opposite, you may not actually like them,
right?
But they are who you need.
Correct.
And if you give them outcomes to own, hey, you own my schedule, you own my email inbox, not, hey, reply to this email. It's like you give them the whole ownership of that task after they've been trained, after they know your expectations, after they know the vision of what you're creating. Then there's, yes, you hand it over, but there's also inspection, there's accountability. And that's what is often missing, is that structure.
Right. And do you find that between entrepreneurs who are typically both short-term and long-term visionaries, and operators who are just, they by necessity have to be pragmatic, do you find that, like, how do you reconcile that? Because those are very two different personality types. I mean, look, I'm asking obviously from my own experiences, right? Where I've always had the feedback is like, Gary, like, slow down. Like, we understand you have this great vision, but you just asked us to create a system for this thing. You're already on to the next thing. So how do you kind of reconcile?
Yeah, I think as a visionary, that we have to be in check, right? So we can't put too much on the team, or they won't be able to finish the job or finish the outcome before we go on to the next. So even with that, I think it's really important as visionaries that we have that person that we can dream with, that we can talk about visions, that we can cast it all. And then how do we, take that from the parking lot maybe and then implement into the business when it's ready? Because ultimately, I call it the number two. Like, you're number two, you make it up, you're the visionary, but number two makes it happen, makes it reoccur. And so it's really important that, like, you value their place in the business.
Absolutely.
And my number two, like, he's like, we know we've worked with each other for so long that it's a very, like, he understands how I'm wired and I understand how he's wired, and so we get it. But when you don't understand it, that's where the conflicts can happen.
Absolutely. And so do you feel like that number two, so when you say number two, you're specifically talking about somebody operational?
Operational, yeah.
Right. And so do you believe that, and I'm actually curious, and I'm asking selfishly, do you believe that that number two and yourself need to spend a lot of time together?
So my number two is not in my same office.
Is he in the same city as you?
He's on 2 hours away.
Okay.
So we have 4 offices and he's in a completely different office. So maybe once a month I'll actually physically see him, but every Monday it's a 90-minute meeting on Zoom with 2 others that are part of our executive team. And it's all about, like, what did we choose to prioritize over the next 90 days? And we really focus on those priorities, we call them rocks, like the Stephen Covey. What are the big rocks that we're focusing on? Yes. Yeah, because if you keep coming at, if you keep bringing up new projects, then it's hard to make progress.
Yeah.
And so once a quarter, we get together all in person
to
decide what the priorities are for the next 90 days. Then we stay focused on that, not adding any new priorities. They go on a parking lot, and then the next 90 days we'll come up and say, okay, what needs to be the focus for the next 90 days? And we have been doing this process since 2017, and we've made so much progress.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And also, but for your particular, you're talking about your wealth management business, right?
Yeah.
So for wealth management, I can see that. I mean, I can guess because it's a legacy, I believe, industry that's been around for a long, long time. And so I could see how potentially, like, new visions aren't happening as often, potentially. Not to say anything negative about the industry.
No.
But I guess from my perspective, I'm in the content creation space, and also for the people who are viewing this, things are just so fast and so dynamic, and the industry is changing so much, and we're also evolving as human beings. So at the same time that the industry is changing around us, we're also changing. So when you have these two kind of radically changing aspects of your business, that change, it compounds on itself because it's kind of multiplying against each other. So it's
would
faster.
Even say, okay, instead of 90 days, do it 30 days.
Right.
Or
Increased frequency of communication.
Exactly. Yeah, because we're constantly communicating, but it's like the projects we're working on do tend to take a 90-day cycle for that.
I find that for myself, even like recently when it's come to scaling our existing kind of businesses and what we're doing, is that to me, the biggest, I think, lever that I can pull is to proactively become a better communicator internally. Like, I'm not talking about even on the content that I'm creating, but internally with my team, is to really stay on point, have really like meetings with agendas, right? That to me is I feel crucial. But I want to move on kind of to the next question I have for you. At what point did you realize that the version of you, the entrepreneur, that version of you who built a 7-figure business was going to need to evolve and change to the person who can build that, 8, 9, and beyond figure business? Yeah,
that's a great question, because everything you do to be successful to get to 7 figures are the exact same things that will hold you back to 8 figures.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to know like what specifically had to change in you?
Yeah, so in getting to 7 figures, you were hustling. Like,
Right.
business owners have to hustle, and there's no way around that. And hustle is healthy. Like, we're passionate. We love to
sure.
go to work and do things. But you don't want to go into toxic hustle. And also there comes a point where you hustling alone you're gonna get to the end of that, which is usually around 7 figures. And so then you have to start hiring people. You have to start letting go. You have to evolve as a leader, because like you are now, people are following you. You have to lead a bigger vision. And so it's really like, that's who you become as an entrepreneur in letting go, I call it the entrepreneurial spiral, because we come to similar places in life, and you're like, oh no, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I have to choose differently. And so you evolve up. And, as you, like for me back in the day, oh man, I was so reactive and more of a dictatorship, if you will.
Yeah.
Versus now is, now in harmony, it's like, oh, okay, how do you feel about that? What decision would you make? And actually, when you give that power over to your team and say, I'm not going to solve this for you. It's now your turn to solve it. You are the leader now. Like we all are leaders in my company.
So I have a hack that I want to share with you.
Okay.
And I think it's kind of, it's selfish because it's on the subject matter that I talk about a lot. The hack that I found, and the most significant change for me, is that since we started Creator Method and now we're scaling this business, what's really made a difference for me is the content that I'm creating. And so not only is there obviously a benefit from a public facing perspective, because it's media, it's advertising, it's content marketing. Mm-hmm. But what I found is that the buy-in I have from various members of the team is so much more, I have so much more impact, because they're probably the most engaged people, because their careers are tied to however I show up in the public forum, which is social media. And I find that I'm getting more buy-in from them. I just find that overall for company culture, it's good. So I think that if you'd like, into the way that you train people, I would suggest that all entrepreneurs and founders create content not only for the kind of the public facing aspect and all of the benefits that are there, but also the buy-in from the team, because I believe they really see your direction manifest itself in real time when you're creating content.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, something to consider.
Yeah.
But when you're scaling from 7 to 8 figures, when you're becoming this new and different version of yourself, what behaviors did you have to put a stop to of your behaviors? What did you have to kill?
Number one, doing it all myself, because it was easier. That would by far the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And really, and it is like I would say I'm one to trust first.
Yeah.
But if I don't trust that person to do it their way, not having to do it my way, then it's like I don't really trust them.
Right.
And so it was really like having to get out of the day-to-day. And like when I had my first office, my office was right when clients would walk in.
Yeah.
And so I would hear every conversation. Mm-hmm. And then I would try to inject myself. No, answer it this way, do this, da-da-da, da-da-da. And so when we went into a new office, I was upstairs in the back corner office where I didn't interact with, I couldn't hear the conversations. And I tell you what, that in itself made so much difference in my business, because I wasn't micromanaging. Sorry to interrupt you.
How do you gain trust though? How do you do that? Because I think that's a key question that I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to the accountability. So for me, like thinking of, because I was helping actually an online business with this. So she had hired a marketing person and she just wasn't happy basically with the results of that. And I said, okay, does she know how many posts you want? How many leads is coming in through the freebie, the magnet? Yeah. How many sales calls is she's on? And there weren't actually a way to track all of that. So we built out a dashboard to say, okay, every week, these are the expectations. Within 2 weeks, she left because she didn't want to be accountable.
Right. But then you got her out, right? And now
then
you
she
can
was
move
out,
on.
and then she's now hired someone that does want to be accountable, that does want to own that outcome.
Yeah. Talk to me about fire yourself.
Fire yourself.
Sorry, no.
Yeah.
Let's get you fired.
It is fire yourself.
It is fire
though.
yourself. But yeah, but the title of the book is Let's Get You Fired. Yeah. So what is it? What does firing yourself actually mean?
Yeah. So
I think I know, but I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so it is that it is that letting go of the positions that you once held. And so firing yourself is, you're no longer the receptionist, the admin, the operations, the marketing. You let all of that go. And so one of the entrepreneurs that I work with, she was saying that she had finally found someone in operations that she was letting go of operations. And I'm like, congratulations, you just fired yourself.
Nice.
And she just laughed, and I'm like, this is going to catch on.
So how do you know? So I want to share with you how I figure out what to let myself go.
Yeah.
And early on with Valeria, what I wanted to pull her out of. But I'd love to hear from you. How do you establish as an entrepreneur, how do you prioritize which positions to fire yourself from?
Yeah, so there's an exercise in the book and also on my website. I'm happy to provide it for the audience. It's called the hustle audit. Right. And so basically it's looking at what are all of the things that you're doing over maybe a 10-day period of time. So it's if you're how long are you doing your emails, your client work, coaching, like all of your family obligations, your personal obligations. Like you write it all down because firing yourself is not only in work, but it can also be from cleaning the house.
Absolutely.
It can be from everything. And then you rank that based on what gives you the most energy. And I would also say, like, what is the only thing that you can do in your business?
Yeah.
And that's going to change as you evolve. Yeah. And then what are the tasks that you can just get rid of or fire yourself from?
Yeah, I think that's you're absolutely right. I remember when Valeria, when we first started, and Valeria and I partnered. Really, my question was, tell me about your day. So I think I'm happy to hear that I was right, because I just did it intuitively, but you obviously formally you understand, you've developed the system. So I just asked her, what do you do all day? And she said, I spend an hour a day in front of the camera. I said, what do you do the rest of the day? She goes, I spend 9 hours a day editing video. I said, how do you know how to edit video? I didn't, she knew. And she was like, at the time, it wasn't as simple as it is now. She said, I just looked it up on YouTube. So I was just fascinated that she had figured this out. She was 26 years old.
I love
at home
her story. I love both of your stories.
Thank you. Thank you. So then I said to her, I said, well, if our mission is for you to create more and better content, then let's hire a videographer. And then that videographer will both shoot and edit. So now instead of an hour a day in front of the camera, you can spend 4 hours a day in front of the camera. And since you're not doing editing anymore, you can spend another 4 hours a day doing research to improve your knowledge about your subject matter, which at the time was limited to, she's evolved way past this, but it was limited to like healthy recipes. She had just finished a diploma in holistic nutrition and fashion, which she was just into since she had been modeling since the age of 14.
Yeah.
I want to add something to kind of your thesis, which I wholeheartedly believe in. And what I want to add to your thesis is not only know what you're going to step away from, but now know what you're stepping into.
Absolutely.
And so for that analysis I did with Valeria, I said, okay, we're going to get the editing off of your plate, but it's not like you're going to still do an hour a day and then you're going to relax the rest of the day. No. You're going to get yourself into kind of what I call her zone of genius, to say, okay, well, now you're in front of the camera more often. You're getting better at that. You're becoming a better communicator, a better expert in your respective fields. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's also really important.
Yeah, I want to say it's like jumping into your future self. Like, when you look at that future and saying, what do I want my days filled with? What would be the best use of my time? Because sometimes it's really hard to let go of all the things that you're doing. But if you jump into that future role and that is taking up more time, you'll figure this all out.
Yeah, I agree. Why do entrepreneurs resist this? Why is this happening? Why is this? Because I feel like it's a hurdle, and you're really getting to the kind of the crux of it, right? When you're jumping from 7 to 8 figures. But
it's addiction.
Why? No, but it really.
Yeah, I think it's like
I'm thinking to sign Valeria up. No, I'm not no joke. Like I would love for her to do a session with you, or potentially multiple sessions. Not that it's a problem, because I think it's one thing when she hears it from me, but I think hearing it from you would be a lot more impactful.
Yeah, I like, for me, what it was is basically my worth was tied to the doing. My worth was tied to getting things done, to feeling accomplished, to hitting a next revenue mark. Whatever it is that, like, I was getting those dopamine hits from that. And so if I now have to let go and trust others, I'm not needed. And when I'm not needed, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. What am I going to do?
Absolutely.
And so I think it goes back to those core beliefs. And I had to, it was basically in COVID when everything stopped, where like, oh, I can't go speak at events. I can't do all this stuff. And I'm like, but at the same time, I realized I was living my ideal schedule, like the schedule you build, you're like, oh my gosh. And why am I feeling empty? And why am I feeling like I need to be doing something?
Yeah.
So that's when I was writing Money Loves You, which is really your self-worth must always be bigger than your net worth. Like that sense of self-love, self-acceptance. Oh, I don't have to do anything to be worthy. I can just be.
I feel like creators have this when it comes to their numbers, like in real time, meaning their amount of followers, their reach. And so I think what you're talking about, I really do see it with creators where they're so like I've had really kind of emotional calls with creators where they're truly sad and getting depressed over the fact that their KPIs aren't hitting on the data side, like on the
And guess what? The social media platforms want that,
well,
right? They want us to keep going.
Yeah, they want us to keep going.
Yeah, but also there's a sense of control versus I like to say I don't need to be in control, but I am in charge, and so that's a different energy.
Yeah, well, I think it's a little different with being an entrepreneur because most of the time, people who already have 7-figure or like multiple 7-figure businesses, I feel like they kind of know their formula, right? Like they know that if they do, let's say, this many outbound calls, they have this conversion rate, and then it's going to result in this much revenue. So they can, I believe that they're much more control as to the outcome being kind of just top line revenue and even bottom line after they figure out expenses. So they have more control. Whereas a content creator, all a content creator can do is control output.
Yeah.
And then the audience basically via the algorithm, not the other way around.
Yeah.
The audience via the algorithm then decides if you're going to get distribution through the way that they interact with your content.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I don't want to say easier, but being an entrepreneur, I think gives you more control than being a creator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, that scaling to 8 figures is easier than to 7.
Yeah.
So that sounds counterintuitive to me. Can you elaborate on that?
It's almost exactly what we were just talking about. So when you're trying to control everything, which is what you have to do through getting to 7 figures, like you got to do the work, you got to do the hustle. But when you actually let go, you are elevating yourself and you're not having to juggle all the different roles. And you're allowing others to do what they do really well, because it's really hard to be the jack of all trades, right? It's really hard to be good at everything in your business where like
it's not possible.
No,
I suck at most things, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So if we can get Gary in the best place for Gary get other people that are like, I want to hire people that are smarter than me, that are better than me in managing, because that's another thing entrepreneurs are rarely good at is managing people. Like we just always assume, hey, you're going to work hard, aren't you? You're going to have the same work ethic, but it's unfortunately not the case.
You know what? I keep teaching myself the same lesson throughout the last 30 years that I've been in business, and I continue making the mistake. And I don't want to say I undermanage. I feel like most of the times I fail to find the correct balance between micromanaging and kind of not providing enough context and systems. So I'm always finding that, and it's interesting because each person will react differently to the amount of, so you can think, okay, I found the perfect like balance between, between in communication so people don't feel micromanaged or overmanaged. And then I realized that worked for that person. And then this person, I'm not getting that same result from, or I'm getting feedback that I don't have enough or I have too little. How does an entrepreneur, do you find this balance? I mean, it's
well, you find your number two. Like
you find your number two.
Like we have 23 employees and I have one direct.
Got it.
Which he's actually president because and so he's not really, we run the company together. And so,
for sure.
I look at him as a peer, as a partner, as, someone that has to and finds joy in all of the people management and operations and all of that.
I want to talk about mental ceilings. I want to talk about glass ceilings. And I did some research and I found the definition of glass ceiling. And it's, I'm just quoting here. A glass ceiling is an invisible barrier that prevents someone from rising to a higher level, even though there's no obvious rule stopping them. So what is like from your experience in coaching so many entrepreneurs, what is that glass ceiling?
Well, you did this for me. So you shattered a glass ceiling for me, which was around content. I was like, Gary, I don't have time to do this much content, and you challenged me on that, and was the situational content awareness.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, he's right. I just need to have, take my keynotes, take my coaching sessions. So now I have a camera set up.
I saw that. I saw you on stage. I'm
trying to implement.
Good.
And I'm like, oh, it's like you totally shifted my mindset.
Amazing.
Where before it was limited. It was like, oh, I can't do this. And now I'm like, oh, I can think about this in a totally different way. And now the sky's the limit.
Good. You know what? I have an example of that. So thank you. I mean,
Yes.
It's a very nice compliment. Thank you. I have an example of that. Something that just happened to me today when you talk about situational content awareness. I had ordered some beef jerky, and it's just bear with me.
Yeah,
I know it
go
sounds
for
funny.
it.
So I ordered some beef jerky. It's actually, I think it's called air dried beef.
Okay.
And I think it's just a fancy way to say beef jerky. Anyway, so I ordered this and I got it in today. When I came into the office, I got it at 8 a.m. and I saw it. And I looked at it and I was like looking up the Instagram for it, and it was from this creator. His name is Paul Saladino.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul Saladino. And he has like over 3 million followers, and I've been following him for years. And I realized what had happened was that I purchased this after, for whatever reason, there was something in my search, because I'm trying to, like everyone else, increase protein in my diet. So I'd done a search, and so I started getting these ads fed to me on my Instagram feed for air dried beef and beef jerky and all this stuff. And I didn't convert on any of them. But then when Paul Saladino, who is somebody who I've been following for years, and I think he's my age, he's super fit, and he swears by like the carnivore diet. And so over the last few years that I've been following him, he's provided me with so much context, right? That I said, okay, well, when I saw his ad come up,
you're like,
and I saw him, I instantly bought it. Now I have it in my office, and I already ate 2 packs today. And so, but my point is that when we talk about situational content awareness, when my trigger was that Amazon delivery coming, me opening the box and me seeing it and being, oh yeah, I bought this. And then I what I just described to you, I remembered that I had been served so many of these ads before, and I converted on him because of his personal brand. And I made literally, I just went up, I put my phone on my tripod, I put my little Bluetooth mic on, and I held this up and I said, hey, this is what happened. And I explained what I explained to you now. But I did it. When you say you don't have time, it took me a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now I've gotten better at doing it in less takes.
Yeah.
It actually took me a couple of minutes. It took me a couple of takes. I was like a little anxious this morning, but I did it. And there was very little editing. There was no editing. I put it up. I put some music on it. I put the captions on it. I wrote some text to complement it, and that's it. Now I have my piece of content.
Yeah.
And it's been seen by thousands of people already, and it's only been a few hours. That's where that glass ceiling, I think, kind of goes away. But so thank you about that the story. But when it comes to this glass ceiling, like operationally, I'm kind of oscillating between content creation and business operations, because what's interesting now is that content creation I see as like it's now in the kind of zeitgeist of business overall. So there's business operations, there's marketing, there's content creation. Like it's ingrained right now.
Yeah.
And so what other glass ceilings do would you see? And I have another question. Do you coach mostly female founders?
It's for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you find that with female founders?
Yeah.
Because I think you know where I'm going with this. Because I work with almost exclusively women.
Yeah.
And I guess that's my question is like, does that glass ceiling, this unreal limiter, unreal meaning like not real limiter, do you find it different for men and for women?
I feel like with women, they have a hard time believing that they can have it all, that they can be a good mother, that they can build the business, that they can do all the things in life that are important to them. And so the mental glass ceiling like changes as you build your career.
Yeah.
Like I never would have thought I would have a business this size and worth this much,
Yeah.
Back when I started my business. But so I had to constantly break those glass ceilings as, I hit the $1 million figure, the 2 million. As you grow, it's like, I never thought I would have 23 people relying on me and their families. And so it's so much self-work, which is why I love entrepreneurs, because and content creators too, like who you have to become to put that much content out, to build the business is the gift.
Yeah.
Is the gift.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that you're constantly breaking ceilings that way. And for me, a lot of it is the limiting beliefs that we have from our childhood, that we have from our parents, that we have from other people putting their beliefs on us that get ingrained. So it's like, we have to go in and like mine that subconscious to say, what is keeping me back? What's keeping me from posting? What's keeping me from building a business, from hiring? It's all of those thoughts that we have to check ourselves on to get to the next level.
What do you think is the most like destructive belief that entrepreneurs have specifically about money?
Oh, specifically about money?
Yeah.
I hear this all the time. I can make a lot of money. I just can't keep it.
Are they talking about business operations or just personally?
So what happened?
They have a spending problem.
They have a spending problem. So what I have found that they kind of fall in two camps. Either they spend all the money that they make on a launch and then they don't have the money to actually sustain it. And then they have to do another launch and it kind of gets in this vicious cycle. Or they put everything back into the business, this is what happened with me is like, I was making $1 million and I was only taking a $50,000 salary. And I was like, oh, I'm just putting money back into the business and all of this. But when I started increasing my salary, my business followed. And so it was like demanding, I am paying myself what I'm worth.
Right.
And the business grew even more so because of the energy of that.
There's so many, I think not so many, but there's definitely two different schools of thought on that I've seen. I've seen it's like, take as little as you can, live below your means for as long as possible, reinvest back into the business. I kind of like the way you're going with it. I just have a quick story. I remember when I was, I was just starting out in my business. I was like in my late 20s. And I met one of my customers, one of my clients. I had an online restaurant director. We became friends.
Okay.
And he really enjoyed life. He owned a restaurant, and I don't know how much money he was making at the time. This was in the year 2000, right? And I remember he said something to me. I said, "Oh, I'm going to get this new car, and I'm going to get like this BMW." And he said, "Well, why don't you get this other car, which is this Mercedes?" And I said, "Well, that one costs twice as much." And he said, "Get yourself the car that you want. Don't settle for the car that you can necessarily afford today." Mm-hmm. And he said that action will drive everything forward, because now you're going to, number one, you're going to represent yourself in a very different way driving this car. You're going to feel better about yourself. Yeah. But then the flip side of that is you're going to have this responsibility to continue paying for it.
Yeah.
And that pivotal moment in my career, my things really kind of had a good trajectory over the last 3 decades because of that.
And I think that's a sign to yourself, like you're betting on yourself.
Yeah.
You're investing in yourself. And so there's a balance, right? I see.
Absolutely.
But I would agree with that. It's like, you are, being a financial advisor, we always talk about, hey, diversification. If you're an entrepreneur, I actually don't believe that. I think you go all in on you. And then as you build wealth, that is the time to diversify assets.
No, I agree with you. I know most of the exited entrepreneurs that I know, whether they're my close friends that I've known since childhood or people that I've met now, like they were and continue to be, if they're still in business, like single mind, like single track. It's just about this one business.
Especially early on. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But with time, I find like for us now that we're kind of at this stage in our lives, and it's not to get too personal, but it's for Valeria and I, there's a level of complexity because we're at different stages of life, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, we are 100% into our business. The last thing we did to diversify was to go from Valeria Inc., and to add Creator Method to it, which is Valeria Inc. is its own animal, and now we have Creator Method. But we try to be responsible by investing in, real estate and stocks, and it's just like a balance of the two.
Yeah, and I feel like coming back all the way to your first question is it feels the energy of building multiple businesses, because my husband and I have done the same thing, and also like different stages. Like my husband is almost 10 years older than me, and so building my business where he was at a different point. It's for me, he had to let me just do what I needed to do. But then also as our kids are getting older and
How old's the youngest?
Youngest is 16, a junior.
So that's it. They're like big.
Yeah, we're looking at it like 18 months and he'll be 18 and we'll be empty nesters.
Oh my goodness.
Like I am so grateful because there were so many times that, that we could see giving up. And And I'm just so thankful that we pushed through. And I like to say neither of us wanted to get divorced at the same time.
Okay. Wow. Okay. At the same time.
At the same time.
Okay, good.
Someone was always willing to fight.
Right.
But what I had to learn was the success, the achievement is very masculine energy. But in our relationship, I needed to turn up the feminine energy. I needed to let go and allow him to, take care of me and to trust him and to not feel like I had to be the one to do it all. And so that was such a gift that I learned kind of in that letting go phase.
Yeah.
Once I hit the 7 figures and said, oh my gosh, I can't keep running at this pace. I got to let go. And if I kept going at that pace, our relationship would not have made it.
Yeah, I guess, Julia, I'm taking a lot of it personally because I'm hearing your story and I'm thinking about like the different iterations of my relationship with Valeria over. It's been 15 years when we've been together, which is shocking to me, and she's only 35.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not. It definitely is difficult. I find that, kudos to you. I want to say is because I'll bring it up again. When I saw your daughter's comment in your content saying, "So blessed to have to have such good role models as my parents." By the way, that piece of content, that was a carousel that you made that talked about being a woman, like as a CEO in a marriage, and how it relates to your husband and the relationship that you have. And what's interesting is that your daughter, and it really kind of caught my attention, was she didn't say blessed to have such a good mom. So she sees this, and this is a child, right? So she's the 16-year-old, 18, but still, she's seeing this as, this is both of you, even though the message was for moms and it was for wives, and she saw it as both. So I find that the fact that you could do that and set that example is great. Just today, Valeria, she was in Mexico. It was really bad timing because there's a lot of violence there right now, but she's okay. She's already on the flight. She's about to land, or she's already landed. And she was messaging me, and she's got this really good event that she's supposed to go to tonight that she's already confirmed. But because she was getting off the plane and she started counting how many hours I have with the kids, she said, I'm thinking of canceling. And this is kind of a reoccurring thing where she cancels stuff, but she only cancels stuff to spend more time with the kids. Yeah. And so I always tell her, you have to do your best to not feel guilty about this, because first of all, you spend a sufficient amount of time with the kids. It's not like you're not an absent mother by any stretch. Yeah, you work a lot. Yeah, I work a lot. But what I always say to her is I say to her that the example you are setting for our children is so much more important than that extra 10 to 20 to 30% of time that you're going to spend with them. But even that, it's still hard for her because she now sees our eldest, who's almost 13, and she sees our 7-year-old, and she's like, she wants to have every moment.
Every moment. Yeah.
She's like, and even today, she slept with me, right? And this morning I was still, so it's tough. I mean, how did you find that balance?
It's hard. It's so hard. There's a quote in my book where this is my middle daughter, Jazzy. I think she was about first grade, and she says, Mom,
Jazzy, I love that.
Jazzy, yeah. Mom, I want to be a client so I can spend time with you.
Oh, ouch. Did that hurt?
Oh, it totally hurt. Yes. And I did my best, right? I have to look back and fast forward to her graduation, and she was doing her college essays, and she had come with me to a speaking engagement at a conference, and her college essay is, I saw my mom chase her dreams and build this business, and now it's my turn to go after mine. And so it's she was a part of all of that, and if I could go back now, there was so much mom guilt, but now for our kids to see both my husband and I chase our dreams, they learned so much in that.
You just said something, sorry to cut you off. You just said something really important. You said to see my mom and dad. What I've started doing lately, and I'd love to get your take on this, I started taking the kids with me. So I've
seen that in your socials.
Yeah. And so I just did, there's a very dear friend of mine, Aaron Spivak. He has a community called the Founders Club. And so I'm a member there, and we hosted an event at my office, and it was only for 10 of the members, and we had a great time. And I had my son come. And so it was a room full of entrepreneurs. We were talking specifically about kind of what I talk about, which is content creation and overall business. and he was there. And I found that was really good. Have you been taking your kids to,
especially as they've gotten older? Yeah. And like our oldest is married actually. So she's starting her own life, but Jasmine, our middle Jazzy she's gone with me quite a bit. And our son, Jake, goes with my husband quite a bit.
What's your son's name?
Jake.
Joe, my son's name
you
is
have
Jake
a Jake too.
Yes. Yeah. And how old is he again?
He's 16.
16. Oh, he's a 16-year-old.
Yeah, he's the baby. And for you to incorporate them into your life is so important. And also we constantly had conversations with them like, hey, mom's going to work really hard at this point, but then we're going to go play. So they saw me work hard. They saw Chris work hard, but they also saw us go on family vacations, travel the world.
They see the results.
Yeah.
But it's important that they see how you do it too, because I mean, our kids up until now have only been seeing the results, right? The vacations and then, all this fun stuff. But now it's, you know what else I started doing? I'd love to hear your take on it. I started having what I called mindset meetings with the boys. So I had my first one. And I sit them down on a table like this. I project some notes that I have, and I just talk about, things that I feel are topical, things that, the next one I'm planning out. I'm literally creating a whole presentation.
I love that.
Is why sports are so crucial for them at this stage of their life, because they're complaining about the fact that they have to play they play tennis. And I make them play competitively, and sometimes they don't want to do it.
And so good for them.
But up until now, because I haven't had time, so I just say, you just have to. I don't want to. You have to do it, right? And so now I'm going to actually do a deep dive and explain to them why. And I'm going to extrapolate with the help of ChatGPT of saying like how this is going to affect, like, here are the benefits that you are going to have later in life.
Yeah.
Like both short term and long term.
Yeah.
And I think, but you know what's interesting? When I brought them into my boardroom, and they were in that environment, it's really interesting. They paid and they're 12 and 11. They paid so much more attention than they would when we're sitting at home in the family room.
I
think changing that environment.
State.
Well, so they feel, okay, this is official business.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just to switch gears a little bit and talk about content creators for just a second. If a creator starts making, let's say, $500,000 to $1 to $2 million a year, what should they immediately think about? What are like some of these early, because these aren't people, from my experience, who start off as entrepreneurs who come in and says, okay, I'm starting an LLC. I'm doing all this, compliance. I'm collecting all my invoices, all my receipts. So what would you say to someone who starts doing these kind of numbers? Yeah.
Like almost every entrepreneur that I work with that are in that stage, they either have an LLC, but they haven't chosen the S Corp election for taxation. So, and that will save them thousands of dollars. And so actually setting up their income as a business. And that means setting up a salary for yourself. Then you pay payroll taxes only on your salary.
Sure. And
then the rest of the money after all the expenses, the net income, comes to them, where they're only paying, federal and state taxes if they have.
Well, there's also the tax liability that if they,
setting up estimated taxes.
Well, I've known creators who literally didn't set up anything, and they would just say, "Here's the wire," or send me a check, and they would just put it in their personal account and just run it. Yeah. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, they get audited, and it's like this whole mess. But I think that there's a lot of fear in this, in the sense that people who are kind of earlier on in their careers, they don't know how to do this. So should they just go to kind of their local, get a referral to an accountant and ask an accountant to help set this up?
Yeah, but you want to make sure that you're working. And a lot of accountants it's an old school industry as well, and so they don't have this really proactive approach.
Yeah.
And so, in one of my businesses, we do basically fractional executive services. Yes. And so, as a CFO, we can come in and say, okay, we're going to structure your business as an LLC, tax as an S Corp. Here's what your salary is. Here's what your draw is. And, really help set up that structure. And then every quarter we look at their net income and kind of project, help them understand, number one, the story of their business with their numbers, but then making sure that they're paying the estimated taxes. So if you do go to a local accountant, you want to make sure that they are going to be very proactive, meeting with you on a quarterly basis, not just once a year at tax time.
Sure. No, that makes a lot. I mean, I think not just tax planning, but the whole administration of how your business operates, again, the invoicing, the collections, and all this. Even things like there's something as it sounds minor, but it actually makes a big difference. So there was something like with the concept around deferred revenue. And so what would happen is, a lot of creators, what they'll do is they'll write an invoice, let's say for the full contract. So if a creator has let's say they're doing something for $10,000, it's going to be paid out over a 6-month period, as an example.
Yeah.
Let's get something to that effect, right? Yeah. Whatever that works out to on a monthly basis. What happens is if they make the invoice now and they make the invoice for the entire amount, then the IRS will look at this as if they booked all of the revenue regardless of when they got the cash in. And then when they have to pay taxes, they potentially are having to pay taxes on money they haven't received.
Exactly.
And quite frankly, money that they may not receive if there's any of it is bad debt.
Yeah.
So we had to learn to, hey, you know what? Even though we had to separate like the contract from the invoicing and not necessarily tie them together, in the sense that if the contract is for $10,000 and you're invoicing every month for whatever, let's say $1,000 for 10 months until it gets paid, then it's like you actually have to create an invoice every month.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson that we learned at tax time years ago, to be like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's a great point.
It's an example.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with, it's like they get the 6-figure tax bill and then they call us.
Right.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? And then we have to kind of help fix the problem as opposed to setting them up correctly in the first
What's
place.
amazing with creators is they don't understand like a lot of the tax advantages they have, specifically when it comes to expensing things.
Yeah.
I mean, like legit. It's interesting because like legitimately as a creator, like you are going on stage, I would argue that what you're wearing,
absolutely,
you have to wear
uniform
for that presentation, right? No, but right?
I mean, my CPA and I have gone rounds and rounds with this.
I hear you.
Last year I was actually on a TV show and I said, all of the outfits I'm buying for this, I am deducting. Like it's going to be on TV. And when I do a keynote, absolutely. Like I put it on there.
Yeah, I think that the best thing that you can do is when you are doing this, like, look, like let's not go crazy, right? Like you can't put a Rolex through.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have trouble with that. You shouldn't put like, expensive handbags through. But I think wardrobe that actually appears in content, like
yeah, absolutely. And also I do this like with your kids. If your kids are in your content, they are models, you can pay them and then turn around and put that money into retirement or some great investment accounts. And that's a deduction.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then the thing is if they don't, I think there's a certain minimum. I think it's state dependent that there's no tax up to a certain minimum.
Yeah.
So, if your kids are working that as much or as little to that it makes sense for them to make that minimum, it's a nice tax-free way for your children to get that money. And then to your point, you've received it tax-free, and now you can invest it into like a long-term vehicle for your children that it could, grow in an accelerated way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these things that people need to take into consideration.
And that also is an opportunity for the education for the kids, because we've always been very aware, like we want our kids to know that they're privileged, not entitled. And so, they have a privileged life. They we're gratitude and responsibility that comes with that, and helping others. And so that's been really important to weave into them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that like the challenges that we have, or that I have with the kids, and Valeria too, is that there's no direct correlation to like if they do something or if they don't do something, there's not an immediate, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not an immediate consequence. Thank you. And so, what I always tell them, sorry, it's off topic from the consequence discussion, but what I always tell them is that they're at a very big disadvantage to me when I was that age. And the big disadvantage really is that my family was broke all the time. We were immigrants. My parents came, they left the former Soviet Union when they were in their mid-30s. They didn't speak English. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any contacts. And I grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
And I said to my kids, my advantage was that I had so much motivation to get out of the situation that I was in and to take care of my parents afterwards, which I ended up doing. And so I had this motivation. I said, so from the perspective of motivation, and then I added the whole conversation about the difference between motivation and discipline. But when I told them that, I said, however, you do have other advantages that will counter that, is you've got me and your mother
I love
to teach you and show you.
Yeah.
So I think as parents, it's important that, when we start from humble beginnings, we teach our kids.
Yeah.
How's your content creation coming?
It's good. I actually love social media. I love the the creative part of it. I mean, that's where I want to constantly fire myself from other things, so I have more time for that.
Yes, because you can't hire somebody to be you on social media.
And I did, for me, because I am so like delegate.
Yes.
I have tried to hire probably 3 different times, have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it hasn't worked.
No,
and I'm like, no, I got to do this myself.
It won't. You do have to do it yourself. It's really interesting. This is the one thing that you truly can't delegate for someone to be you. I'm always, my goal in our business is, so I'm completely, I was just talking about it with my chief of staff, Ariel, today, is that I don't want to be part of operations at all. Because and I want to mention this to you because using myself as an example, if I could literally all day long create content around my expertise, maybe spend at least half of the day gaining expertise by interacting with parts of the business that will fuel that knowledge in me.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the day, I can put it out and get creative about how I can put it out. It would do so much better for the business. And I believe that for you as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like my company is now, independent. Like I used to be the company, and now the company is independent. And so that allowed me to step out and start building this personal brand. But it's interesting how sometimes it feels like competition. Like, why is she like, this is my
competition
mindset.
Where?
Like, of thinking with whether it's my clients or my team, like, oh, why is she out here just pulling content together just for her?
Just for her.
Yeah. And actually we lost our marketing person because they had such a hard time with me coming out and like doing my own thing. And we tried to like solve that, but she ended up leaving, and now we have an amazing new person that sees the vision of it, because that's what it is. They have to believe that me being out in the world is directly connected to the business that I own over here.
I promise you. And the thing is, I'm still shocked to this day how so many entrepreneurs don't see this yet, is that entrepreneurs with visible personal brands with varying scale, it's not about the scale, it's about the trust. They're the ones who are currently, you know what analogy I give? Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, there were businesses that they weren't sure if they should have a website. They kept putting it off and putting it off, and they didn't want to do it. And eventually, now every business understands that they have to have a website, right?
Yeah.
And so back then, it was a lot easier, right? Because you create a website, maybe every 3 to 6 months you make an update. This is different. This requires you to put content out daily.
Yeah.
It's constant output that you have to, it's constant work that you have to do. But
and there's not like an immediate reward per se, too.
Yes and no. It's yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. And I'll tell you why. Because it's a funnel, right? And I'm sure when you're speaking with your marketing people, everybody understands, like they've explained the concept of funnel. And I think as an operational CEO or any kind of a CEO, it's just, and especially as a CFO, it's hard to grasp, because traditional kind of CFOs look at everything as an arbitrage. I put in $1 today, or I put in a certain amount of effort today. The next day, where is the revenue?
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to like
zoom
out and understand that it's going to take time. So to me, I started looking at marketing a little different, and I started looking at personal brand a little different. The number that I pay the most attention to right now is in the last 30 days, how many accounts have I reached? That's my ongoing, and I can see the correlation between when that number is high, and I'm talking about on the Creator Method Instagram account, on my personal Instagram account, and on Valeria's Instagram account. All 3 of them, I add up the reach, but then I also take into consideration that the context of each reach, of each touch, is different on all 3 accounts.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you like have a dashboard where you track that, or you just look at it?
I just look at it. I'll tell you what it is. The more, and this is going to be counterintuitive for you and for most people. No, for like operators who base their operations on real analytics. And this is where I think there's a big divide this gap is going to close with time. There's always been the concept in business and in everything that we see in the world. There's always 2 sides to everything. There's the art and the science. And so as business operators, we operate as scientists for the most part. But there's a massive artistic component to it, obviously. And so then, you have your marketing department, your CMO is always arguing with your CFO, right? One of them is the scientist and one of them is the artist.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. more and more today with social media at scale and with this massive global communication at scale, we have to now take our science, and on that spectrum between science and art, we have to start moving more closer to the art. Because the entrepreneurs and founders and operators who either understand the value or are actually the rainmakers on the art side, they're the ones who are going to progress. And there are experts in this field talking about how like the Human Inc. or like the individual, these are the next multi-billion-dollar companies, and we're already seeing with creators like Mr. Beast. Alex Hormozi, who I'm sure you know because his content's right up your alley. He just got a Guinness record that he sold, I think, in 24 hours. He did over $100 million.
I watched it
in book sales.
In book sales. Yeah.
I was one of those. Like
I
bought his book. I bought his book. So yeah, I think we all need to understand the value of that art. And for Valeria, who's like a true artist, she's trying to become a scientist. She's trying to, and I keep pulling her back saying, I understand you.
Yeah.
Let's have structured meetings every week or every month so we can A, answer your questions, and B, prepare reports for you that are telling you everything that you want to know and need to know in the business as a scientist. I say scientist, but
I like that. I love that analogy. Right? Yeah.
But I'd love for 95% of your time to be an artist.
Yeah.
Because I can't hire for that. We can't hire for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of have to be both.
Yeah, she's brilliant at the content.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's so fun to watch.
No, thank you.
Thinking of your question, how's the content creation?
Yes.
It's like, well, we just filmed a lot of content on vacation. So it's like, getting that put together.
Don't overthink it. Keep putting value out.
Okay.
Have a healthy mix of the personal side, which you did brilliantly with that post, the carousel post about, your husband. Yeah. I thought that was great.
And LinkedIn, we put that on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
It blew up.
Sure it did.
Yeah.
And it'll continue to do so. But you talked about a kind of a delay, right? Like this delay between putting it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're used to arbitrage. You're used to like spend $1 today, you're doing $1.20 to $1.30 in gross margins. The next day, instant justification. The problem with performance marketing, and this is a constant debate in the branding and content and business world, is that you run into a cap. So there's the law of diminishing return. And so ROAS, which is return on ad spend, you're going to cap out. So if you went to go right now and put money into marketing and you're trying to get performance marketing where you're trying to get that arbitrage and you're trying to be profitable in real time, that'll hit a certain ceiling and then you won't be able to go further than that. In order to go further than that, the only way to do it is with brand.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of that is personal brand.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that invest your time into developing your personal brand. And the other thing I've been saying to a lot of entrepreneurs lately is, you know what the concept of the bottom of the funnel? That's where the conversion happens.
Yeah.
So after they've been through the whole funnel, discovery, building rapport and everything, then comes the bottom of the funnel. So what I keep telling entrepreneurs is stop living at the bottom of the funnel. Because if you're
really good.
Yeah, if you're only living at the bottom of the funnel, you are not performing the activities that are required to put people into the top of the funnel.
Right.
And if you're not putting people into the top of the funnel, you won't have a bottom of the funnel.
Yeah.
It's like, who made the sale? The cashier at McDonald's? Did they make the sale?
Yeah.
Or did all of the marketing over the last, however, 50, 80 years do the sale?
The brand did the sale.
It's the brand.
Yeah.
But the trouble is you can't track that. You can't track what a billboard does that has a Big Mac on it.
Yeah.
But you can track what the cashier pulled in.
I think what I need to do is, instead of hiring someone at creating the content, is like the person that's actually with me all the time, not my hubby, not my Insta hubby, I call him, but like filming, because I set the camera up, but guess what? There's a lot of that content that's still in the chip in the camera. So it's because I'm not a great, for me to edit would be...
No, you don't need to edit.
So I need to find like an editor to give all that stuff to create it.
What I suggest for you, you're a through and through a knowledge-based creator, right? There's knowledge-based creators. Essentially, there's knowledge-based creators and aesthetic creators.
Okay.
Right? Some are
I kind of want to be both.
Well, good one. Your knowledge being communicated effectively at scale is what is going to build your personal brand and build everything for your business. I believe I would have mentioned to you on our call, I don't recall right now, the example of Jefferson Fisher. Did I mention Jefferson Fisher to you?
Maybe keep going.
Okay, so Jefferson Fisher is a very interesting concept. Jefferson Fisher is a lawyer with his own law firm. And he started creating content sitting in his car like this. And he just talked to camera about various aspects of communication, not even law. So he took the concept of like his, of law, which requires advanced communication. So he took that skill from being a lawyer and he applied it to literally sitting in his car and telling people, like, this is how you deal with a narcissist. This is how you deal with somebody who says this. This is how you deal with somebody who insults you when in a group of other people. And so he continues to do this, and he just literally sits in his car because his car has perfect lighting, as most cars do.
Yeah.
Perfect sound because you're encased in a studio.
Yeah.
It's a perfect sound stage and video stage. So, and he just, and because he's in his car all the time, he literally did nothing but just sit in his car and shoot those videos.
Yeah.
So he would put out 2 or 3 a day. He's over 6 million followers right now. He gets millions of views per video. Now he has a podcast. But imagine what this has done for him.
Yeah.
And the key thing for him is by putting out that content, and I'm specifically talking for you, is that he got better at it with time. So he got scale for 2 reasons. And this is directly will reflect for you. The first reason he got scale is because he kept putting out a high volume, like 2, 3, 4 a day. The other reason he got scale is because he was doing volume, he was getting more practice, basically getting the equivalent of reps at the gym in his content. So he simultaneously created the volume, created more distribution, just more visibility. And the volume also created an advanced skill set that got him even more. The thing is that you already, so here's the thing, the value of what you want to create, it already exists. So right now, the value is already here. So let's say this is the value. That's the, if you quantify the value, it's here, right? And then what you have to do is you just have to be able to put it in a format and put it out there. That value is here. You're just covering the delta now. So for you to cover that delta of taking your value that you already have, quite frankly, in your head after doing this for as long as you do, if you sat me down and you gave me a 1 sentence about content creation, I could say that sentence and then I can elaborate it for 30 to 45 seconds. And I would be able to produce that value. So I'm already taking value that exists and I'm just learning how to get better at articulating it in a short segment. And so to me, that's easy for you to do.
Yeah.
Do you drive every day?
Not every day, but three days a week probably.
How long are you in the car?
20 minutes.
All right. Well, can you make it 30 minutes? And for 10 minutes, you can just do this and film content?
At the end, yeah.
Whenever you want, whenever's convenient for you.
Yeah. Or stop at the beach.
Sure.
Do it on the way.
Yeah, why not? You should have with you you know what I'm going to start doing? You just made me think of something. I'm going to start buying gifts. Unfortunately, I don't have one for you today, but I'll have one sent to you. I'm going to start buying gifts. I'm going to start buying people tripods. You should always have a tripod with you. Always have a tripod with you. And then the other thing you should have is Bluetooth mics.
Okay.
And you can just clip it.
Yeah.
And when you get a thought, you immediately act on it.
Go.
How often do you talk to clients?
Oh, like 3 days a week.
Okay.
Most all day.
About an hour, all day.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm with Wednesdays all day. Tuesday, Thursday are my entrepreneur days. So half the day at least.
So I promise you, if you, as you're counseling people and as you're talking to clients and various aspects of your business, if you're truly observing what you're talking about, you are going to pull out little, I should talk about that. I just had a realization. The other thing is you are at the source of a flow, not even a stream, of a heart, of a meaningful flow of information that not everybody has. And what that is that when you're talking to your clients, whether they're your investment clients or whether they're your coaching clients, you are being asked questions.
Yeah.
Those are the questions that you need to address.
That's the stuff in my camera.
Okay, well, get it out of your camera. But
yes.
what I'm saying is when if you're taking notes of what questions you're being asked,
I see.
Who else can do that?
Yeah.
Like that's your competitive edge because you're so close to that flow of that flow of questions. You're now listening to that flow of questions. You're like, oh, there's a question. You jot it down as you have the meeting. You now have your 10 reels that you can do
in the car.
And wherever you want.
Wherever,
I'm just giving you the car because
I get it.
If you're there by yourself, your kids aren't there, your husband's not, no one's bothering you.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
Think about that.
That's my commitment.
Think about that. Do you have any questions for me when it comes to content creation or anything like that? Because I want to be able to help you in any way that I can.
I feel like it's the, thinking about like just that little switch of mindset when we talked last about having the camera on me. And so I think to take that further is the editor that can help me get all that out there.
With the editor, here's what I'm going to suggest that you do. And I think I probably suggested this to you on our call. So where we are right now, this is a podcast studio. I'm sure that within
we have one.
Perfect. Yeah. They are also doing editing.
Okay.
You can literally hire them and send them your raw files. You can film at their location. Like I'm going to start doing for Creator Method, I'm going to start doing solo episodes where I'm going to come in. I'm going to be doing a lot of ChatGPT prompting for creators. So, and talking about different things as solo episodes. And I'm going to be coming in here, but we're also handing them, like we're providing them with raw files from other stuff that we're doing. So find that's to me, the best way to find these editors rather than relying on people like in Europe potentially or wherever because a lot of them will be contacting you.
Yeah.
Just go to your local podcast studio.
Okay.
And if you ask them, can I provide you with raw content and you can edit it for me? 10 out of 10.
Yes.
They're saying yes. And then you buy a package from them.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because I don't have an active podcast right now.
You should.
Do you feel like that's a good way to?
That's the best way. Like, why do you think where are we now?
Yeah.
All right.
And then you'll take the content from this. Yeah.
There's probably going to be about maybe between 5 to 7 reels from this.
I was thinking about like what specifically to do the podcast. So and I would definitely be around entrepreneurs,
Absolutely.
but like even around Let's Get You Fired or
Absolutely.
do it more just on my brand or just on my name, if that makes sense.
What do you mean on your name?
So would the podcast have to be super niched into just like one subject or do it like Time with Julia?
Yeah. You know? Well, I don't know if it's Time with Julia specifically, but I think it should be something to do like with what you coach on. So you coach, to me, it's very relevant what you do, like to me at least, right? And I think to a lot of people, because you're not only coaching on business operations and scaling, but you're also focusing on investing. And so to me, it's like engaging with you sounds very logical to me. So what I would do if I were you, this is your forte. I mean, you've made 2 books on this, and you have a business where you invest people's money, right? So. Yeah. The topic of money and business and scaling and operations and investing, these are your topics. And so honestly, like the other skill that you need to develop to do this correctly is you need to know how to talk to ChatGPT. My suggestion to you is to invest and spend money on the $200 a month. And I do that simply because it has more memory and storage. I'm going back to, it's just remembering everything at this point. It's just getting better and better at really recalling kind of some of the things that I deduced in the past and bringing it back. So my suggestion to you is to go in and have like meaningful, I mean, it sounds crazy, but having conversations with this machine and going through and talking about, the thing is, I'm trying to understand, like, let's say, for example, if you wanted to talk about somebody who's got a surplus in their business. So at the end of every year, they have a surplus and they can either take a higher salary, which will expose them to more taxes. They can take a dividend, which will expose them probably to similar tax rates, or maybe a little lower.
Yeah.
Or they can start investing that money and potentially not get that tax hit, maybe avoid even the corporate tax by reinvesting it back into something else. So if I were you, what I just described, me as a novice, if I put that into ChatGPT and said I want to do a 30 to 45 minute solo discussion on how to identify at what point in the fiscal year or in the calendar year I have this surplus, and then how to invest it to then not take it out as as taxable income or dividends, and then how where to invest it, and then how to invest it in such a way that it avoids corporate tax or what you know better than me.
I know I could do all that.
My point is if you do that, and if you do that as a solo episode, and furthermore, there's other ways to iterate on it. So if you took that concept and you said, okay, I'm going to take this concept, I believe have the chops to sit down and do it yourself. But let's say you wanted to do it where you wanted to bring someone on and say, I want to have this discussion. So I'm going to bring, if you feel you need it, where it can be a dialogue with somebody else who also has similar, like look what you and I just did. We talked about different aspects of kind of the same thing. We're talking about business. You're talking about it from your perspective. I'm talking about it from what I have a focus on now, which is content creation. So you could potentially bring someone on. But honestly, I wouldn't even get into guests. I don't think you need it. I believe that your kind of path with the least amount of friction is to do it yourself, is to sit down for 45 minutes, have a whiteboard in the background like this one right behind you. And I would just like look at the camera. I would talk to the camera. I would glance at that and have my next topic and my next topic and my next topic. And you'll get better and better at it. If you don't feel comfortable doing that and you want to read, put it into ChatGPT, ask literally to create a 45-minute script. but then go back and edit it so it sounds like you,
Yeah.
and you can read as well. But if you do that, you now have a full-length video that will be edited into a YouTube video. You now have an audio track that you can put up to Spotify and iTunes.
Yeah.
And now you've got your video, your editors will give you those 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's so much rich content you can get on a per episode basis. If you do that twice a week for 30 minutes at a time, 30 to 45 minute monologues, really that's it. You're good. Plus the stuff in the car and you're good. You have a sufficient amount of content.
Yeah. How important is going back to the aesthetics? Because like thinking about the podcast, and then all of a sudden my whole feed looks like, I have 10 clips of me in the same episode. Like, so for me, because I want to look at my feed and love it, I'm overthinking it.
Don't worry about the feed. Don't worry about the feed.
But I want to think about the feed.
You can think about the feed, but what I'll tell you is that if you have you in the car, which could call that a less professional looking piece of content versus you in the studio, what gives you the credibility and what gives you the velocity is the combination of both, right? Is having a content mix where you're showing your credibility of being in studio, being buttoned up, you're showing that, plus you're showing these more candid where you're just out for the day and you're wearing a t-shirt, but you're in your car. The value is in the content, much less than the aesthetics. Because a lot of people can have aesthetics, but not a lot of people, and this is your differentiator, have the level of knowledge that you do and the access to the questions that you do on a daily basis. That's where your subject matter is coming from. And then you're formatting it using ChatGPT for either short form content or long form content. Don't worry about the aesthetics. Meaning be conscious of it, because the same way that you would present yourself in the world, it's the same mix.
Yeah, it's never not going to be. It's just like thinking that it's all the same. Right.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
Again, go to Jefferson Fisher. Only now he started putting himself.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, only now he started putting himself in studio. Only now. But before that, it was all him in his car.
Yeah.
Now look, I don't want to cause controversy, but I think there's going to be a difference between how men do this and how women do this. Men in general care less about aesthetics.
Yeah.
In general, in society, men are valued not for their aesthetics, right? Yeah. Whereas women, there's obviously a certain, there's a beauty standard and a certain aesthetic standard. And I think it comes down to your comfort. My suggestion to you is to mimic the way that you feel comfortable showing up in the world. So if you feel comfortable going to the Starbucks with your daughter, whatever level of preparation you've done for that, I believe you can get on camera and do that.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen is this pursuit of aesthetics, what it's going to do is it's going to slow things down. I want to give you a quick example. Sorry that I'm doing most of the talking.
No, it's okay.
I'm just eager to give you as much value as I can at the tail end of this session. But let's say you feel that you're not sufficiently aesthetic in any given moment. If you have an idea or a thought that comes to you about what you can talk about in the content, the longer you wait from when you get that inspiration to when you shoot it, the more it's going to degrade.
Yeah.
Whereas if you shoot it right away, that's the optimal time, is literally to pull over in your car and bam.
Yeah.
Because you get it in your head. Because from my experience, I lose it. If I try to,
same.
I've been trying to take notes. It's never the same as when I'm so excited in the moment to talk about a certain concept. And so if you have this high aesthetic standard for yourself, you are 9 times out of 10 going to say, I don't like what I'm wearing today.
Yeah.
Put your hair back, put on a hat. And if, wear a t-shirt, that's it. That's it. That's why I suggest that in that moment, as long as you have a sufficient amount of content of you being, I call it buttoned up in your professional environment, then you're good. Yeah.
I feel like I tend to do what you're saying more in stories, and I actually don't put that to the feed. Yeah.
But feel free to put it in the feed. Well, again, for you, it's so much about the rich content that you have and this information that you have. You've written 2 books about it, right?
There should be plenty.
Yeah. I think you just need to really concentrate on execution.
Not think so much.
You know what it is? You can fine tune afterwards, right? Have a sufficient amount of data. Do it for long enough consistently. There's no reason you shouldn't be putting out 2 to 4 pieces of content a day. And you're not going to overpost. You're not going to spam people. That notion is incorrect.
Okay.
Put out as much as you can, as much value as you can. What I wouldn't suggest that you do is don't post just to achieve that number every day, 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you think you can do. Don't do it just for that. Don't be like, I have nothing, but I'm just going to say something. No, don't do that. I would rather you posted less that day than post something that there's no value.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of value.
Mm-hmm.
But quite frankly, I'll tell you, just like, just to be really transparent, is people like yourself and I, we've been in business for a long time. We have so much to offer the generations before us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like there's so much. And I feel like it would almost be, I don't know, like having as much information and knowledge as we do to help so many people. I think it would almost be like criminal not to.
Yeah. I love that perspective.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the other benefit is that you're going to benefit from it too.
Yeah.
So not only are you providing so much value, you can see I'm just excited about content creation.
Yeah.
Not only you're providing so much value to younger people and to older people, to everybody, but you're also benefiting from it directly by doing so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Julia, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And yeah, this was so much fun for me. I really loved comparing notes with you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.